NFL game on the phone tonight, and that is none other than Donald Trump. Welcome.
Hello, Don.
Exactly 24 hours, Mr. Trump, since that debate began. 24 hours later, how do you think it went?
Well, I think it went very well from my standpoint. As you know, Drudge did a big survey last night, and I was number one. I had 55% or so of the vote for first place. And Time Magazine did a big poll, and I had a big percentage of the vote. The New York Times had me in this number one position and the strong position, and just about everybody did. Other than there are a couple of guys like Krauthammer who hates me so bad he can't even see straight. The guy, I mean, it's a sad case, to be honest with you. He's totally overrated. He's a guy who fought like hell to go into Iraq. You see what we got by going into Iraq. He's a real jerk.
He's often.
I mean, other than a couple of people actually over at Fox, but it was a record-breaking event. If I wasn't in the event, they probably would have done 2 or 3 million people max.
Yeah.
So, I'm very happy about it. And most people say that I won the debate and I won it easily.
Let me ask you this. Do you think, because you mentioned Fox, do you think there was an agenda on the part of Fox News to target you? And if you do, why is that?
Well, probably. I don't know. Probably. Who cares? I don't really care. I mean, I do my thing and whatever it is, I'm leading in all the polls. So they probably have an agenda. I'm very disappointed in Fox News. I think they're, not I think they probably had an agenda, but certainly I don't have a lot of respect for Megyn Kelly. She's a lightweight, and, she came out there reading her little script and trying to, be tough and be sharp. And when you meet her, you realize she's not very tough and she's not very sharp. She's Zippo. But she came out, and, I'm sitting there, I'm standing there. I knew it was going to be a big crowd because I always have. I mean, NBC renewed The Apprentice, but I wasn't able to do it because I'm running for president. But as you know, they renewed it. I'm one of the few people in the history of television to turn down a renewal. Mark Burnett said, "I can't believe it. You're turning down a renewal." I said, "Yeah, I want to do something. I'm running for president. We're going to make the country great again. And it's very important to me." And I turned down a very lucrative renewal. And who knows what's going to happen with The Apprentice? They don't think they can replace Trump, and that's a great honor.
Well, let's talk about Megyn Kelly, because you brought her up. She did push you, pushed a lot of people. But what is it with you and Megyn Kelly?
Well, I just don't respect her as a journalist. I have no respect for her. I don't think she's very good. I think she's highly overrated. But when I came out there, what am I doing? I'm not getting paid for this. I go out there, and they start saying, "Lift up your arm if you're going to." I didn't know there'd be 24 million people. I figured, but I knew it was going to be a big crowd because I get big crowds. I get ratings. They call me the ratings machine. So I have, she gets out and she starts asking me all sorts of ridiculous questions, and. You could see there was blood coming out of her eyes, blood coming out of her wherever. But she was, in my opinion, she was off base. And by the way, not in my opinion, in the opinion of hundreds of thousands of people on Twitter, because it has been a brutal day. In one way, a great day for Fox, and another day in the Twitter sphere, it's been very bad because she's been very badly criticized.
Let's take a look.
She's a lightweight. I couldn't care less about her. In fact, you're competing against her, and I'm doing your show. That's interesting.
Let's take a look at some of that, because you have been tweeting and you've been retweeting some pretty harsh language, Mr. Trump. So let's go through some of them. You said, "Wow, Ed Megyn Kelly really bombed tonight. People are going wild on Twitter. Funny to watch." Then you retweeted someone who wrote, "Fox viewers give low marks to Bimbo at Megyn Kelly. Will consider other programs." And then one of your top aides retweeted this, Mr. Trump, "Boycotting Megyn Kelly at Real Donald Trump. We can gut her." A lot of people are wondering about this language when it comes to women. Do you worry that that kind of talk might drive some women voters away?
Well, I didn't see the last one, but she's able to take care of herself. She's somebody that's, pretty tough, and I'm sure she can take care of herself. But, she's just somebody I don't have a lot of respect for. I don't think she's got major talent. I don't think she's got very much talent at all. I mean, she's sitting there reading questions. She rehearsed for it for a long time. And, I'm also not a fan. The great Mike Wallace was a friend of mine. In fact, he did me on 60 Minutes. He was phenomenal. It was a phenomenal 60 Minutes. But he was a friend of mine. He was a tough cookie, and he was great. And the Sun is only a tiny fraction of Mike. Believe me, there's a big difference between Mike Wallace and Chris Wallace, because I watched him last night, blood pouring out of his eyes, too. And I'm saying to myself, what am I doing? I'm here in front of all these people. I'm doing Fox a favor by doing this show. And what am I doing? And then they, come out with these vicious questions. And they got very badly criticized because people thought it was very unfair. Now, am I complaining? Not particularly. I mean, I'm on to the next thing that I do. And in the meantime, as you know, I think you know that I'm leading in all the polls. We just got a big poll back from Georgia. This is the great state of Georgia, where I'm in the 30s and the opponents are, like 20 points lower. So, we're doing really well. South Carolina, Iowa, New Hampshire, Nevada, the state of Nevada, where, by the way, I'm leading not only in Nevada, but leading with the Hispanics, which I've always said. I told you originally that I was going to win the Hispanics because I'll take jobs back from China. I'll create jobs in this country, which nobody else is going to do. So, I'm leading in the polls and we're doing well. But I thought that, last night, while it was a success, and while in one way I'm proud of it because everybody agrees, that if Trump isn't on that show, they do 2 million, maybe 3 million, and I don't even think they do that much.
Well,
and here they set a record.
You are polling very high. The first question I have to ask you, I'm wondering if you think that Fox stacked the deck against you. And again, I have to ask you the question, if they were out to get you. Because that first question out of the gate was whether you would support the eventual nominee or run as an independent. Do you think that was a fair question?
Well, I don't think Fox treats me well. I really like the guys on Fox and Friends. I do like Sean Hannity. He's a terrific guy. I like Bill O'Reilly. He's a fantastic guy. But and Greta's great. But I don't think that Fox. I mean, they have Krauthammer, who's the worst. They have George Will, who is the dour George Will. He has nothing ever good to say about me, and I could tell you why. I mean, something happened 12 years ago where I did a number on him, and I understand that. At least there, I understand.
Explain that, please. What do you mean?
No, I don't want to explain it, but
okay.
He'll explain it.
Okay.
But George Will is pathetic. I lost all respect, frankly, for Bret Baier. I knew him and I liked him, but I really don't have any respect for him anymore because of the way he handled the situation. But in another way, I'm very proud of the fact that we broke a record, and it was because of me. And one thing I'll say, every show, NBC, ABC, CBS, they're all saying Donald Trump broke the record. They're not even saying Fox. They're saying Donald Trump broke the record. So, so in one way, I'm very happy about it.
Would you do another Fox debate again?
It had to be broken on your watch because, the show was against you.
Yeah.
But that's okay. You can live with that, right?
Yeah, of course. I mean, that's the game, and we know how how it goes.
The
so then, would you do another Fox debate, or would you drop out if there's another Fox debate?
I don't know. I'd have to see, but I might not. I mean, to be honest, because I think their folks were not good. I didn't think they were fair, and frankly, it was on Morning Joe, another great guy, Joe Scarborough and Mika, two great people. But they thought I got treated very unfairly. They said the difference between the questions I got, and you know what? I'm a smart guy. I went to the Wharton School of Finance. I was a really good student and all that stuff, right? I built an empire.
Mm-hmm.
I did the Art of the Deal. I did The Apprentice. I've had an amazing life. I'm like a smart person, so I didn't care. I mean, I can handle the toughest question.
Yeah.
Give me a question on physics, I can handle it. But, I thought it was like going to be a nice evening and let's go home. And, they put you through the third degree. And I'm saying, what am I doing? What are we doing here? But I thought it was unfair. And if you check out like Joe Scarborough or Mika, they were shocked at the questions that I got versus others. Now, you could make them all tough, and that's fine, or you could make them all softer, and that's fine.
Well, why can't you just say, no matter if it's a man or woman, no matter who the nominee is, that you're going to support the Republican nominee, no matter who it may be?
Because I don't choose to do so, Don. That's all. I mean, what difference is it to you? I don't choose to do so.
Mm-hmm.
I will probably at some point do that,
Mm-hmm.
but right now, I tell you, I'm only looking forward to one thing, and that's to running as a Republican and winning as a Republican.
Mm-hmm. And what if
at some point I may do?
Go ahead. Are you there, Mr.
Go
Trump?
ahead. Yeah. Can you hear me?
I
know I have
but
if
you run as a third-party candidate, the concern Republicans is that you're going to hand it over to whoever the Democratic person, whether it's Hillary Clinton.
Hey,
or
Don, don't worry about it. Okay, that's not your problem.
Okay,
that's not your problem. So what happens is. I'm leading as a Republican. Obviously, it's better to run as a Republican,
mm-hmm.
but I'm leading as a Republican. That's what my choice is. And if I'm treated fairly and with respect, and even if I don't get it, I would, most likely go ahead and not do that.
Yeah.
But if, on the other hand, I'm not, I might very well might. Now, at some point, I may switch over and make everybody happy, and I'd be happy also.
Yeah.
I will say, with that being said, I'm being treated very nicely by the RNC and Reince and everybody. They're treating me very nicely, and that's basically what I want. I want a level playing field.
Yeah.
And if I get a level playing field, fairness, then it's highly unlikely that I do the other, which would be, you would call a third party.
Yeah, well, I don't need to press you any longer because you've answered the question. You said that you would not like to not do that. So I think you've answered the question. I think we've spent.
No, I'd like to not do that because the best chance of winning is if I win, if I get the nomination, if I get the Republican nomination, I will beat Hillary. And I don't believe anybody else will beat Hillary.
Okay. You say that you won the debate.
If she runs, by the way, because I'm not sure she's going to run with her problems on the email.
Yeah.
I'm not so sure she's going to be running. She's got some big problems. I mean, General Petraeus did a lot better than her. I mean, she was far worse than him. And you look at what's going on, and they destroyed his life. So I'm not so sure she's going to escape the whole email thing. But we'll find out pretty soon.
Can we talk about the other people who are up there? Because you say you won. A lot of people, though, were impressed by Marco Rubio, and they think that he won the debate. What do you think about that?
Well, I don't know. I'm not saying I won. I'm just telling you polls that came out from Drudge. What's better than Drudge? He's a fantastic guy, and, what he's built is unbelievably respected. And Time Magazine is wonderful. And, they did a poll, and on the poll, I was in the 50s. Against everybody else. I think the second place was like 9, and I was in the 50s. So I don't know. I didn't do it. It's not my poll. It's other people's polls. If you read the story today in the New York Times, on the front page of the New York Times, the whole story is about, the strength of what I did last night. And it was a great story written by 2 really good writers in the Times. Good people, too. Yeah. So, and by the way, there were many others. The Washington Post, many other papers said I won. So I'm not saying it then. You said I said. I'm not saying it. I'm just saying that a lot of polls and a lot of stories said I won.
Yeah. In an earlier debate, Carly Fiorina took a jab at you that you weren't in the debate, but she went after you anyway. Take a listen to this, Mr. Trump.
Well, I don't know. I didn't get a phone call from Bill Clinton before I jumped in the race. Did any of you get a phone call from Bill Clinton? I didn't. Maybe it's because I hadn't given money to the foundation or donated to his wife's Senate campaign.
When you and President Clinton spoke, what did you discuss?
Well, that's none of your business, but it was very routine. And I will say, my mind, when we spoke, I mean, this is where most of it was written incorrectly, my mind was already fully made up. In other words, I was already going to run. So when we spoke, when he called, my mind was already, totally made up. I was already running, essentially. So, there was nothing big, but I've known them over the years, and, I haven't spoken to them in a long time. But my mind was fully made up.
Did he encourage you to run?
He spoke to me. My mind was made up a long time ago.
Did he encourage you to run?
No, not at all. In fact, I think he was upset. I think we didn't really discuss it, but I think look, I am Hillary's worst nightmare. She knows it. He knows it. And I think the smart people in politics know it. When I went and I said I was going to run against, the guys that I'm running against right now, everybody said, oh, he's never going to run. He's never going to file. I filed. And the numbers are massive, and the company is a great company. But, they said he'd never file this, he'd never file that, then he'd never file. I said, well, I did that. I ran. And then they said, oh, well, maybe he won't do well. Well, in the meantime, I have like a 15-point lead. And now everyone's saying, oh, wow, that's really sort of amazing. And I think I'll win, to be honest with you. It's possible I won't. But I have a very substantial lead, and we're getting all of these great numbers back from South Carolina and from New Hampshire and from everywhere. Iowa is going to be amazing. I mean, the people are amazing in New Hampshire and Iowa, and they love what we're saying, which is basically that our government is run by incompetent people and we're losing our country. And we just have incompetent leadership, and it's horrible what's going on. So the message is out there, and people are liking what I'm saying, and I will make this country great again. And we can do it relatively fast, but we have to get working soon, because if we continue to go this path, we're not going to be able to bring it back.
Let's talk about your leadership abilities, which is in business, and you tout it all the time. And I'm wondering if there's a double standard at play here, because you took some very tough questions about your business practices, about taking advantage of bankruptcy 4 times, yet no one questioned Carly Fiorina's business experience. Is there a double standard, you think, when it comes to you?
Well, no, they're questioning hers. Look, she got fired, and she got fired very harshly. You know, it was a very vicious firing, and she was fired, and then she ran for senator against Barbara Boxer in California, and she lost in a landslide. And I'm not knocking her. I couldn't care less. She's not going to win, okay? I mean, they say, oh, she's glib. So what? She's glib. It takes a lot more than being glib. But she's not going to win. But, you know, she got fired, and she ran for office, and she lost in a landslide. I don't see that as being necessarily great credentials. But I think she's probably a very nice woman. I just don't know. Now, in my case, I never went bankrupt. But like many other of the top business people, almost all of them, we use the bankruptcy laws to our advantage. And we make good deals by using those laws. Now, out of hundreds of companies that I have, hundreds, I used it 3 or 4 times, made phenomenal deals, and mostly having to do with Atlantic City. And by the way, Caesars just went bankrupt. Almost all the places in Atlantic City go bankrupt because the place is doing very poorly. But, and, you know, it's not my fault. Yeah. But I left about 7 years ago. I made a lot of money in Atlantic City. I had great vision, great timing for leaving. Just like I had great vision by saying in 2004, don't go into Iraq. If you look at the papers back in those days, okay, Reuters, you'll see that, and that's unlike any other candidate. I'm the most militaristic person. I would create military so strong, but we shouldn't have used it in Iraq because we destabilized the Middle East, which is exactly what I said would happen. And Iran will take over Iraq, and ISIS will take over the oil. And, you know, lots of things are going to happen that are very bad after spending trillions in lives and wounded warriors and everything else. So, you know, you have to have vision. With Atlantic City, I left 7 years ago, made a lot of money, left. And, yeah, I've used certain, you know, laws and things that you're allowed to use. And I used them brilliantly. And other people have too, and top people. I mean, I'm talking about top people have used the same things. And you have to know what you're doing, but, you know, it worked out very well for me.
But speaking of Iraq.
I never went, but Don, just so you understand, I never went bankrupt. Neither did the other guys like me that use that particular law.
Yeah, but you did use that. But speaking of Iraq, what did you think of Jeb Bush's answer about Iraq?
Well, it was a terrible answer, and it was a terrible answer that took 5 days to give, and it was a simple question. I mean, it was a question that was extremely easy to understand, and, you know, it was like, was Iraq a good thing or a bad thing? Now, we spent $2 trillion, lost thousands of lives, have wounded warriors who I love all over the place, and we have nothing. We have nothing. Yeah. And Iran is taking over Iraq, and they're taking the oil, and ISIS is taking some of the oil also. So between Iran and ISIS, they're going to split up Iraq. And we spent all, it was a terrible thing. And he wasn't sure, and he still wasn't sure, was it good or bad? And it took him, you know what they do? They go out, these politicians, they go out and they get, you know, sound bites from people that work for them. I mean, you know, it's like, it took them 5 days to answer the question, okay? Was it good or was it bad?
But speaking of Jeb,
this is not what we need. This is not what we need.
Speaking of Jeb Bush, last night you also asked about reports that he had called you some pretty nasty names. He denied it, and instead of going after him, you called him a gentleman.
He denied it. So why are you bringing it up?
Well, I mean,
he was very nice. You know what? He was very nice.
But let me finish the question, if you will, with all due respect. So you called him a gentleman. You've been insulting Jeb Bush for weeks, saying that he's weak. I'm just wondering what changed between you two.
No, I didn't say he's weak. He talked about tone. He said Trump's tone is very tough. It's very, very strong. And I said, no, you don't understand. We have to have a tough tone. They're cutting off Christians' heads and everyone else's heads in Syria and Iraq. And they're blowing everything up, and people are dying all over the place, including the border, which if I didn't bring it up, you wouldn't even be talking about the border. You wouldn't even be talking about illegal immigration, Don. If I didn't bring it up. It's become and in fact, that first week, I took a lot of incoming. I took a lot of abuse from the press the first week. And now a lot of those people have apologized to me because I happen to be right. But the border is a disaster. The drugs are flowing in. Crime is flowing in. And I'm going to build a wall, and it's going to be a great wall, and it's not going to be penetrable. And we'll still allow people to come in legally, but we're not going to have the problems that we have now because I know how to build and I know how to manage. And we have to get it done. And, you know, it's sort of an interesting thing. People say, oh, you can't build that wall. Well, the truth is the Great Wall of China is 13,000 miles. This one, if you maxed it out to the end, is 2,000 miles. And that was built 2,000 years ago, more than 2,000 years ago. So, you know, you can very easily build it.
So I want to ask you more about the debate and the post-debate analysis. You say that the media treats you unfairly. You also had some very angry words for Frank Luntz, who had a post-debate focus group asking a lot of questions.
No, I'll tell you about Frank Luntz. Frank Luntz came to my office.
Can I play the soundbite and then you respond?
Asked me to hire his company. Excuse me. Frank Luntz came to my office, who's a dunce as far as I'm concerned. I mean, you know, this guy is a major loser. Frank Luntz came to my office, asked me, first of all, he asked me for an airplane ride. So I gave him an airplane ride in a very nice airplane. Then he comes to my office. All he did is keep saying, I want to come and see you. He comes to my office, wants me to hire his firm to do focus studies or something. I don't need focus studies. I told him, Frank, I don't need focus studies. I have no interest. And after I said that, he does all these negative focus studies on me because it can't be right. Because if you look at polling and all the polling that's gone on having to do with the debate, most people think I won. Most people think I won the debate. So this guy's a wise guy. Maybe he uses his little tiny power at Fox in order to get work. I don't know. But he came up to my office. I couldn't keep him away. I mean, the guy kept calling, please, let me see it. So I see him. I say, Frank, I have no interest in your polling and your focus groups. It's not. By the time you do your group, the deal will be dead, assuming I'm doing deals, which I'm not doing anymore because I'm running for president. So I told him no. And now every time I see a poll, it's negative. I mean, the guy's a lightweight.
So I just want our viewers, some of our viewers may not be familiar with who Frank Luntz is. So I want to play this moment so they can see who he is, and then I want you to respond to it. Take a look.
When you walked in here, how many of you had a positive opinion of Donald Trump? Raise your hand. Overall. How many of you have a positive opinion of him now? Who is negative towards Trump when you walked in here? Who's negative now?
I liked him when I came in here because he wasn't the politician. But right now, he skirted around questions better than a lifelong politician ever had.
You know, he just let me down. I just expected him to rise to the occasion and look presidential. He didn't.
So what do you think is going on with that?
Well, I think if I hired his firm, it would have been a much different thing. Hey, look, this focus stuff is, you know, I'm not a believer. And, you know, I'm not sure about this, but maybe he just grabbed some people and he says, let's do a number in Trump. You do this, you do that. Maybe he didn't. I don't know. I don't really care. The guy's a total dope. But he was up in my office begging me to hire him. I mean, the guy literally wouldn't stop. He kept calling. Finally, I agreed to see him. And then all of a sudden, I see these focus groups, and they're always negative. Yeah, I'm not a negative person. I mean, how can it be so negative when I'm winning in all the polls? I'm winning in all the states. I'm winning everywhere. So, you know, I mean, I think he's got his own agenda. But you know what? The last thing I need is to do focus groups in my company. By the time you put the group together, the deal is gone.
Mr. Trump, you know, you wrote the art of the deal, so you know how this
that is true.
This stuff works. Going into this, you were the front runner. You knew you were going to be targeted, possibly attacked. Do you worry that it undermines your tough guy image, that I'm going to stand up to Putin, to China, to Mexico, et cetera, yet your demeanor might suggest to people that you are thin-skinned?
No, I don't think I'm thin-skinned. I think I'm the toughest skin. I think I'm fine, but I don't like when I'm treated unfairly. And I'm not saying change it. I tell you to change anything. I said I'm fine with it. But I like to expose people. I mean, I expose Megyn Kelly as not being very good. I could tell you other things about Megyn Kelly that would be very harsh, but I won't bother with that. But Megyn Kelly is not a good professional, and she's just not, in my opinion, she's not good at what she does. Well, I'm not complaining. I'm not saying do it over. I'm not suing Fox. I'm not doing anything. I mean, Fox should love me because I just broke the all-time record. And if I'm not in there, if it's Jeff and the other guys, they're going to get 1 million views, and they got 24 million because I was in there. So, you know, they must love me, but in actuality, they probably don't. And I don't even care.
But and you know, Megyn Kelly is a very respected journalist, and
I don't think she's respected. What is she?
Many
she's
people
a lightweight.
think she is.
She's a lightweight. I can't believe that you're not beating her in the ratings, actually. You should be ashamed of yourself. If I had your show, I'd be beating her so badly she'd be thrown off the air. That I can tell you, Don.
Okay.
I'm very surprised at you, Don. I'm just kidding.
I know that you are, and I think people...
But I'm not kidding. If I had your show, believe me, she would have no chance. She wouldn't be on the air very long. That I can tell you.
Well, you can come on anytime, and you're welcome here anytime. Right. I want to ask you, though, before I let you go, the CNN debate is September 16th. You going to do anything differently to prepare for that?
No. I did, according to everybody, I won. According to everybody, I won, other than the haters and losers. But according to, the polls, according to Drudge, according to Time Magazine, according to the New York Times story, according to many other stories, Washington Post, I won.
Yeah.
Now, why should I prepare differently? Preparing for a debate's hard because there's so much knowledge you have that you wouldn't be able to prepare. I mean, you can't, study in 1 week what you've learned over a lifetime.
Yeah. You had to have learned something from this. You're a very smart man. With every experience you learned something. What did you learn from this experience?
Nothing. I mean, just that, what do I learn? I went in, I did a great job. I was asked really nasty questions by people that are not nice people, and very unfair questions, actually. Much more unfair. In fact, a couple of the candidates, nice guys. I really liked a couple of them. I liked a few of them, really, a lot.
Yeah.
They came out, they said, wow, number one, you won. But number two, they were nasty to you. Mm-hmm. They said that to me. Yeah. They said they were really nasty to you. All three of them were. Yeah. And, I said, hey, that's the way life goes. So I'm not thin-skinned at all. I understand how the game's played. Yeah. But I can say what it is. But, a lot of people say, would you do another one with Fox? Possibly not. Who knows? I mean, we'll see what happens. I don't even know when the next one is. I think the next one is with CNN. Yeah. And you guys are making a lot of progress, thanks to me, because your ratings are way up because you're covering Trump all the time. Yeah. So I should get a piece of it. Don't you think, Don? Like 25%?
Listen, I'm not going to make that deal because you would hold me to it. I know that you would. And by the way, just so
be careful. I'm glad you said that because I might hold you to it.
Just so you know, Megyn Kelly's not my normal competitor. She's on at 9 Eastern. I'm on at 10. It just so happens tonight that I'm on.
I know that.
So, but listen, you told me last time and last we spoke that during the debate, if you didn't do so well, you would ride off in the sunset. Am I to assume now that you're here to stay?
Well, I did really well. I mean, with horrible, nasty, stupid questions, I did really well. I'm certainly not riding into the sunset. I'm leading in every poll, Don. You don't ride off into the sunset when you're leading. Now, maybe there'll be a time when I'm not leading, and I will ride off into the sunset. Okay, that's possible, too. But the reason I'm leading is because I'm going to make this country. We have a great, great potential country. Right now, we're number 2 to China. We're getting beaten in every way. We have horrible trade deals. We're getting fleeced by everybody that touches us. We can't beat ISIS. We can't beat anybody. And we're not taking care of our vets, and we're not taking care of our military, and Obamacare is a disaster. I'll straighten it all out. I'm really good at that stuff. I mean, I'll straighten it all out. And even in your CNN poll, you did a CNN poll a month ago. I was number 1 by far, by many, many points in leadership, number 1 by far in economic. Okay, you know that, right? Mm-hmm. I think you will agree.
Yes.
Number 1, like not even close. Anything having to do with finance, jobs, and the economy, I was number 1 by like far. They were left away in the dust. And that's what our country needs, Don.
So then what do you do then? You talk about, you're right, you're number 1 in those categories, but then in your favorability, you're not always at the top of that.
My favorabilities come way up, Don, if you're being honest.
Yeah.
I agree with you 2-3 months ago because people didn't know my message, and they know me, but they didn't know me in this position. But if you've looked at my favorability recently, my favorability, in fact, somebody said they've never seen anything like it. The favorability is strong. Look at the new Fox poll that just came out. Mm-hmm. Where I'm at, I think, 26%, and the nearest opponent is, 12 or 14 or something like that. And my favorability has become very good.
You had 24.
In the New Hampshire poll, the favorability swung all the way into the very positive. So, the favorability is doing good now, Don. You have to look at the modern poll.
You know that 24 million people watched, and you had the opportunity to win some people over. Do you think that you did? And if you didn't, would you change anything? Would you change anything at all about what happened and how you conducted?
Well, I think I would have liked to have been treated fairly. but Fox didn't decide to do that. So, you know, I blame Fox to a certain extent, and I blame, you know, these people that did the show. No, I wouldn't change anything. They should have treated me, but I wouldn't change anything. I think that it was, you know, I'm happy. And look, everybody's saying it was like my show. It's like it was The Apprentice or something. It's like my show. They're saying the Trump show. It was sort of interesting. But look, you know, we broke a record. But I think what has happened, and I think, you know, I don't know if my poll numbers, my big poll numbers are going to go up or down or what, but I think they're going to get better because Fox has been inundated with, you know, with social media, inundated for the unfair treatment that they gave me, and which I'm happy. I'm glad. I like that people do that because it was unfair. And we'll see what happens with that whole thing, but it was unfair. But they've been inundated. I was told by somebody at Fox that they've never seen anything like it. And it was just the unfair treatment by people that did the wrong thing.
Yeah. Donald Trump, you're welcome to come co-host with me anytime, and we thank you.
Good.
We thank you for joining us.
We'll beat everybody. You and I will beat everybody.
I really do appreciate you coming on.
All right. Thank you very much, Sean. Take care of yourself.
Thank you. Up next, our political experts react to Donald Trump's comments tonight and rate the debate's winners and losers. Also, women voters, key to the election. Are Republicans courting women or turning them off? I'm going to ask former Congresswoman Michelle